So today we're talking about it's alive, fast apps with self-service and Epinio. So brief caveat about Epinio, right? Epinio is a platform that runs on Kubernetes that's focused on developer experience. The goal of Epinio at a high level is to make it easy for developers to ship applications without having to understand the underpinnings of Kubernetes and containers and things like that. Epinio, as a SUSE project, hit a pause at the end of 2023. And so, or go back to the previous one a little bit. But we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go and kind of get you up to speed. But as we are picking up the project, and as we're picking it up, we're going to talk through some of our philosophy and where we're going to be taking the project moving forward. And ultimately today, it'd be great to get some of your feedback on some of this as well, because we want to make sure that we drive this in a direction and take everyone's feedback, but put it in a direction that people will actually use and find it useful. And the last caveat about Epinio is it is a targeted developer experience. It's not meant to be an all-inclusive, do every damn thing for you type platform. Sorry for cussing, I might do that more. So let's get into it. So the backstory behind Epinio is that SUSE started Epinio as a project alongside the Rio project, if anybody remembers that. It was originally meant to be a little bit of an inspirational fork of Cloud Foundry. There are some components that were shared from that as well. But that style of being able to build applications and straight from source and use build packs and those things in Cloud Foundry were great. But one thing that differentiated from the Rancher team's mission as a part of Cloud Foundry's development was that Rancher is meant to be true to core Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes is meant to be the thing that you can interact with underneath the hood, and you have assistive applications or things that help you interact with Kubernetes, and Cloud Foundry started to deviate away from that. And so the Rancher team and the SUSE team saw it as an opportunity to develop a new platform. So Epinio started there, but in 2023, or toward the end of 2023, priorities were shifted around, and the team dedicated to Epinio was distributed amongst other portions of the Rancher ecosystem. Now, one thing that you may not know is that Epinio really was the first Rancher extension, and it was actually through the development of Epinio and Harvester and some others at the same time where the extensions framework was matured and developed, as well as some of the decoupling and the component systems and things behind Rancher. So Epinio, where it is today, and we'll show you another slide that talks about that, but where Epinio is today, it's kind of in a little bit of a limbo. And we'll talk about the backend components and why that's impactful there. But in late 2024, the reins were handed over to us. Did we skip the Chrome slide, about Chrome slide? No. Maybe we missed that. Well, I'll tell you about Chrome, but the reins were handed over to us based on our experience and the complement to our portfolio and the way that we complement the Rancher ecosystem as partners. And we plan to take it even deeper in that direction and help drive and build more partnerships. But it just made sense for us to continue to develop it as software developers and pick up the developer platform. So Chrome has the reins on it now, but we're still a strong collaboration with SUSE, and we're using it to help drive some new product development on the Rancher core product side as well. So a little bit about Chrome. So Chrome was started about 9 years ago. It was started primarily as an excuse to try to develop just new products in general. We're an all software development shop. So we're focused on building applications and products for people, but I come from a background of critical infrastructure and delivering software into environments where customers had control over that infrastructure, where we had to deal with as the software providers had to deal with all of the technical support problems of that customer not knowing how to manage their own hardware and environment. And containers and Kubernetes were a godsend in that case. So Chrome started specializing in that complete application and hardware and the delivery of the tools and systems to enable that delivery of software all the way out to the edge about 9 years ago. we picked up Rancher as a tool about 6 years ago. But the way that we fell on Rancher was we were developing a next generation product for a major audio dispatch and like 911 console company, something that needed to run in web browsers, mobile devices, be able to be deployed rapidly into edge locations and be portable on any hardware. It sounded like a great fit for Kubernetes. So we developed this a complete cloud native solution around that and lifecycle management tools. But the challenge was when it was time to go to production, the operators, the infrastructure guys said, "What the hell are you doing to me? Containers are stupid. This is awful. They're insecure." And that was only about 6 or 7 years ago, right? And we see how the market has matured since. But we said, "Hey, why are you really scared of this?" And it was really just because they were used to traditional IT management. They didn't really know enough about containers. It wasn't they're insecure, it's we don't know how to secure them, or we don't know how they could be secure. So when we were evaluating different solutions, we found Rancher. That was around the time of like the OpenShift 3 to OpenShift 4 transition, when that was crap, and some of the other tools. But Rancher was the only one that stuck true and core to Kubernetes. And that was a big philosophical thing for us. We actually were able to leverage Rancher and its implementation as a training solution for those infrastructure teams. We were able to walk them through the ClickOps and the UI, be able to let them edit the YAML, see what changed when they changed a value. Really, really useful tool. But we weren't able to do that with other proprietary systems that abstracted and made their own flavor of those APIs in Kubernetes. So by using Rancher, we could pull it in, like put it in or pull it out, and it wouldn't affect our software stack, but we could add it as a complement. So through that experience, we now specialize in platform engineering. So we're on both the operator side and the developer side. So we're delivering Rancher and other solutions in just about every space you can imagine, companies large and small, but also delivering the tools, assets, and artifacts for developers to actually ship into those as well. So that's a little bit of backstory. So I'm Colin Griffin. I founded Crumb. I'm also a co-chair of the CNCF Platforms Working Group. So trying to help everybody. If anyone's a platform engineer in here, hopefully you've read the Cloud Native Maturity Model, the Platform Engineering Maturity Model, and some of those assets and artifacts, but definitely contribute to that. And this is David.
Yeah, and
yeah, you're good. You can.
Okay, I'm David Johnson, and I'm a software developer. Yeah, Epinio has kind of become more important to us at Chromeware because we're we're a small company, so it's like you're having to bug a platform engineer every time you want to get something deployed, even like a test application. So Epinio has made that really easy for us. Someone as a software developer, I don't necessarily have the time to go in and learn everything a platform engineer might do. So yeah.
Yeah, we thought it would be valuable for David today as well to talk on this directly and present a good portion of this because he is the user, right? He is the developer. And so we're going to role play a little bit or talk through it from that perspective, maybe have a little fun with it. But for us, philosophically, the big challenge here is how do we get developers and operators to work together? And how do we do that in a way that is non-invasive, that they can work together just as a general function of doing their jobs? And we think Epinio touches on that really closely and doesn't necessarily get all the way there yet today. So we're going to focus on that. But we say Epinio is good for operators and developers. So our scene, basically, what we're used to, this happens all the time, and it's so stupid, but you guys know it too. The business folks or people, I think I actually added our extra little slide in here. There we go. Yeah, so your project manager or someone from the business side comes in and says, hey, I need an AI chatbot. That's only going to take you like 4 hours, right? And I told the customer we'd have it shipped last week. You can have it done because you guys are awesome and smart, can't you? We say, oh, shit. What the heck what are we going to do? So like David's going to come to me.
Yeah, and I'm going to be like, what's a Kubernetes?
Where the hell are we going to host this thing, right? And so what I would do is I'd say, hey, developers want to use some tools that are available. They want to know a little bit, like we need to put them into an environment. So I'm going to say, hey, we got a Kubernetes cluster. This needs to be on-prem at the customer, right? This can't go on AWS. Like, how are we going to do that? right? Do you have any experience with Kubernetes?
Absolutely not.
Have you done any containers before?
Nope.
So I say, so what the hell are we going to do? I say, well, let's try this Epinio thing, right? Like, and why the heck are we going to try Epinio? So when we're going to go through our criteria, we're like, hey, we want something true to Kubernetes because it's already a Kubernetes cluster. We don't want to change the way that it's operated. We don't have time to. It needs to have a small or lightweight footprint. Maybe this is going out to the edge. We need some choice. David loves to run in, what's your OS and everything else?
Oh, Nix OS.
Yeah, so he's Nix, he's in the CLI, he's using Vim, he's doing all that stuff. I'm more of like a VS Code, hope and pray with WSL kind of person. But so we needed ClickOps because maybe we need to get in there from the phone. We need to be able to use the CLI because David wants his freedom. We need the API because we might need to operate and do some extra things and automate some things on our own, but have some choice. But we need that Kubernetes under the hood, and we want to interact with it from Kubernetes. Most of all, we need a simplified developer experience. And again, we just don't have time to learn anything else. So we say, hey, let's try this Epinio thing. We found it online. This could be the magic bullet. This could be the tool. So hopefully it doesn't take much time to install, right? So this is a little preview of the refresh that we're doing to the landing pages as well. So what makes up Epinio? Epinio is a backend or API. It's the Epinio engine, effectively. There's a UI server as well that usually we wouldn't list that in the components, but there is some importance to it. It has DEX for auth by default. That may or may not stay. You don't have to use it. It does support single sign-on. And it comes with some form of object storage. You need some sort of S3 compatible storage. Today it ships with, it's not S3, is it maybe S3 GW? I can't even remember. I don't even pay attention to it because all I care about is I'm just going to Helm install, right? And it creates additional workloads and like staging workloads and things on the fly. Good. From a front-end point of view, we've got a standalone UI, so we don't have to use Rancher to run this, right? We all love Rancher here, though, so the other option is a Rancher extension, right? So what you might not actually know, and one of the reasons I mentioned the UI backend, is Epinio is actually a stripped-down version of the Rancher dashboard. It's literally part of the same, it shares the same source code. And when it transitioned into a true extensions format, when they introduced the extensions framework, it effectively was them stripping out the remainder of the pieces that were included in Epinio, in this case, that are copies of the code from the Rancher dashboard. But that's really interesting. So is anyone trying to build like customized platform experiences or trying to customize Rancher at all? Has anyone thought about it or wanted to? Like, if you haven't yet, it's really easy to do, but people just aren't quite aware of that. The interesting thing, and like David's working on a lot of extensions in general as we're building those, is he's a cloud native developer. He's not a platform engineer, but now he can build cloud native experiences and learn Kubernetes by building functionality he will need. So it's a really interesting way to drive platform adoption with the developers, like let them participate in the development of their stuff. And that's why you see so much energy behind Backstage as well, because some companies are leveraging it that way.
Yeah, and you mentioned like how easy it is to extend Rancher, and really all a Rancher extension is a Vue app inside a Vue app. So if you understand Vue and can understand some of the basics of how the Rancher API and Kubernetes API works, you can build your own extension for your company, or something that bothers you, you can go in and fix it. Took just a week or two to really get used to it, and then you're off to the races.
So the other component, the other ways to interact is there is a Docker desktop and Rancher desktop extension. We just published a fixed version of that today. It kind of looks like crap, so don't judge us, but that's on the roadmap. But it does work, and one thing it helps you do is simplify the install on your local environment as well. So if you're a developer, if you want your developers to get familiar with Epinio, they can try it on their own machine first, and then you can give them other environments to export and ship to. Yeah. So if we get developing, like we're going back to our stage, what do we need to actually do? Well, we just need to Helm install it. That's really it. The only requirement is you need Cert Manager in there. I'd like for that to be a little bit more streamlined too, but we'll get there, right? So really there's nothing stopping us from trying it. So if you want to show, Dave is going to work through and show some of that workflow, and then also some of the development workflow. And we're going to show you some of the different modes to interact.
Yeah, so this is the Epinio dashboard. You can see on the left side there, there's... Oh yeah, let me zoom in real quick. This is a common issue for me. Whoops.
It's okay. We can just open it in the browser again.
That's right.
So you can run Epinio on local servers. You can run it on remote servers. You can really run it anywhere. It really is tremendously lightweight. There we go. That's good.
All right. Yeah, so let's start off and let's just go ahead and deploy a simple application. So this one, if you guys are all familiar with the 12-factor app, when we pop in here, you're first going to select your source. You can also select a container image. You got options between GitHub, GitLab, or private instance. You can just use Git URL. And we're just going to punch in Epinio here.
We're not going to get super in-depth about the customization options you can do, but you can upload your Git credentials and everything else. You can upload private repositories. You can add custom charts. There's a ton of flexibility, but that requires you interact with Kubernetes, and there are some CRDs you can use to upload that.
So we can go in here. We can see all of our repositories under the Epinio organization, but we're going to select the 12-factor. Be able to select all your branches, and all that auto-populates. And you can also see if you want to select like a specific commit, you can do that as well, but we're going to pick the latest one. And
show the advanced
oh,
settings
yeah.
really quick.
Right here, you can actually pick whatever build pack image that you want. So it comes default with Jammy, but you can also use things like if you have like a Python app that uses poetry, there are specific images out there that are meant for that. So you can select those types of images as well.
So there are instructions on the docs of how to build your own custom builders. You'll likely do that the same way you'll create your own base images for standard container applications, right? But you can kind of treat those like your standard base images, but the application chart is a Helm chart template that it has templating, it supports standard templating and rendering, so you can build more complex applications or include other dependencies and let a developer select which template they're going to need to use. A good example of that and how we use it in some cases is we have specialized application charts that include standard new vector security rules, and so we ship the security rules alongside the application in those cases.
All right, then you gotta give it a name. So because I'm one-handed here, I'm gonna do 12F. You can easily select the amount of instances you want, custom routes, and listening port. But for this, we won't need any of that. Also, you can go ahead and add your environment variables in here. The thing I like is you can just straight up read it from a file, select it from your drive.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that form-driven value schema of the default Helm chart? Is that how that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you put your own Helm chart in there, would it just dynamically render a form based on your values?
Right. Yes. Yeah. There is, and you can see that in the documentation around how to create your own chart. You can template and have certain value fields of certain types and things. There may be some shortcomings there, but that's one of those areas that we're focused on from the operator standpoint as well. We'd like to introduce a way to be able to assemble those charts without having to get into the YAML as well.
All right, and if this application would need like a service like a database or something, we could select an option from here, but we'll show how that works in a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and create, and it should only take a minute or two, but
Oh, your log window is.
yeah.
So this is going to pop up. You'll notice a lot of similarities to Rancher. This is the same logging window that you're used to, right? So this is going to show and walk through the build steps. If you can shrink that. Yeah. Just bring it down. So we can see here that it's going through several stages. There's a create application stage. right? It's going to create the Kubernetes objects, and there's the fetch stage. It's going to go grab the files from the repository. Build is when it's going to pack everything together, and then it deploy as your standard workload deployment. So while that's going, let's go ahead and switch over to some of the other things. Namespaces is here available as well. So developers can use this to understand, well, what is a namespace, but also how to segment workloads into different namespaces. And there is some access control that you can do as well, but there's not good user interface for that yet. Services. So services is where it gets really interesting for the operators. Here we can see instances of services that we have allowed the developers to create for themselves or to instantiate for themselves. So David earlier selected and spun up a MySQL database, but how did he get to that? He got to that from the catalog. So these are pre-populated out of the box with Epinio today, and you can add your own services here as well, and also these are just Helm charts. But if we want to introduce other ways, other services or other ways, or APIs, or maybe access to AI models or some other things, like if there's anything that you want to serve that a developer needs to instantiate, maybe even developer environments, that's one that we're working on, then you can add it to this catalog and make it available. Now, from Cloud Foundry, what's going to happen is if a developer chooses to bind to one of these instances of the service they create, it's going to automatically provide the developer with their credentials for that service as well. So you don't have to do any of that handshake. So from the developer operator experience, David says, hey, I need a database. Well, he doesn't have to call me anymore. He doesn't have to ask for a key. He doesn't need access to a vault. He can just create it, and I can go and play golf maybe or something.
All right, so it looks like our application has finished deploying. So you can see here my 12F app, and if we pop open, we're going to accept this unsecured connection, self-signed certs, and you can see we have our 12-factor app.
There you go.
So I think we want to jump in and try something a little more complicated, and we're going to do that from the CLI, actually.
Let's see. Let's go back to the UI just real quick
Sure.
and make sure we didn't miss something. Let's just poke through a little tour. Let's hit advanced really quick.
Yeah.
So configurations are the variables and the definitions, like the things that make up the app. So you can modify those configurations or just access those more directly. So here you can see some secrets and some other things. Yeah, we know we got to hide those variables. Go to application charts. So here is just an easier way to see and manage the collections of applications that are available to the developers. Again, a little bit of shortcoming on the UI that we plan to really lean into and develop is we need the ability to go pick and add from these charts. Not all of us as operators are going to get in there and design and write Helm charts. Would love to hook this up to an internal repository. And just like how we can pull in the application source, why can't we pull in the chart sources, right? So absolutely on the short list from a roadmap standpoint. Let's go to system. Here is just an easy way for developers to download the CLI that matches the version from what's running on the server as well. I believe there's also there's like a chocolatey install. There's a number of ways you can install the Epinio CLI without coming here.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but David really likes to use the CLI, and so we're going to show how, frankly, it can be a lot easier in a lot of cases. But he's going to do the same workflow, but from his machine.
Yep.
You get.
Yeah, I'm getting it up.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to zoom this in as well. Not close it this time. I'll do one more. All right. So I have my example WordPress repository cloned down. So first things first, I want to create a database for my WordPress site. So we're going to copy over some commands here. First, I'm referencing my local Epinio CLI, and then I want to create a service, so we're going to write that out. create. And then, as you guys saw in there were a couple of different options, but we're going to go with MySQL database today. So I'm going to reference the service from the catalog, and then I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to say MyDB, very descriptive.
And I'll point out, you typically would have that binary aliased,
Yes.
but you like life on hard mode.
All right, cool. So that's spinning up now. So let's go ahead and actually push the WordPress app to the Epinio instance. So to do that, we're going to copy over this.
Time check. 10 minutes, we're good. Beers and food will wait.
Okay. It's got the super long command here, but the meat of it is basically the push name WordPress. So that's what kind of creates your application name, and it will look for, in this instance, a proc file within the repository to kick off the build, and then you can feed it all of your environment variables that you need.
Now that configuration, while he's doing that configuration, we're showing you some of the environmental variables that you can pass in through the command line, but you can also assemble a manifest file and do it that way. And one of the things that you'll see as you play with this is you can actually export an existing application and take that and then upload that manifest into another instance of Epinio. And automating that is a great way to promote from like dev to stage to prod, right? So here you can see it's uploading the code, it's staging the application. So it's going to take and package that code and put it up into the object storage, and then it's going to work with the object storage directly, package that up. So the whole build process is happening in the cluster. It's not happening on his local machine in the CLI. So some people are moving to iPad-only workflows and like remote dev environments and things there. So already supportive of that here. A nice thing too, I'm really excited to talk to some of the Edge crew and some of the stack validation, because this could be great for us from that standpoint. Build directly in that environment where we know it's going to run, and then run some tests and validate directly in the Edge environment. We need that parity with our dev environments and our prod environments. Let's see. You can see the layers here of the build pack as well. Now, has anyone used build packs before? So build packs are an open source. Build pack is an open source project. It's a CNCF project. Different companies are trying to make different flavors of those. So you may see Paketo is one company that does that. Heroku contributes and has their own build packs. You can get the Cloud Foundry build packs, and those are all, as long as they conform to the build pack standards, they work with Epinio. So that there is a vibrant ecosystem around that. Unfortunately, some of those build packs, especially on the Cloud Foundry side, are behind paywalls. You got to have that Broadcom subscription, so we're hoping to change that a little bit.
Okay, so before we go to our next step, we can confirm that it's opening on the wrong page.
You know, I should have added into the talk, so good a developer can do this one-handed.
Oh, it's because we deployed to the Chrome dev. Well, this is actually a good opportunity to show off the
Oh, you're
CLI.
working on the remote environment.
Yeah. So we can actually switch Epinio environments directly from the CLI. So to do that, we jump back to the Epinio binary. You say login, the instance you want to go to, specify the user, and then it will actually ask you for a password. And we're just going to blindly trust that cert. All right. And then if we rerun that command once more, we want to create that database.
So now you're on your local.
Yep. And then we want to create that WordPress site. And
We
then
probably
if
don't want to wait on it.
If we open up the, oops, minimize this. we can see down here that it's showed up, it's building. You can see all the environment variables that we passed in there. If we want to go over to, I think it's in under, oh, we have to wait for the instance to pop up.
Yeah.
But
And if we go over to services and then instances, you'll see that the database is coming up as well. So nice, easy way to view that. Now, if you go over to Rancher and go into Kubernetes, that's all in there as well, right? They look like normal deployments. What we hope to do with the extension, right, is to be able to highlight the deployments that originated from Epinio inside of the Rancher UI to give a little bit more context. Well, that's going to keep going. Oh, there you go. Okay. We got to show you guys some of the other stuff while we have time.
all right, so you can see that it's error starting the database up. So the last step is just link that database. So to do that, we'll just grab the command again. And again, it's pretty much the same thing. You have your service, say bind, and we call our database MyDB, and we call it our WordPress site WordPress. And the service is now binded. So if we minimize this, we'll be able to see the so you can see that database has come up, and then
Yeah, it says bound. Yeah.
if we jump back to here, you can also see it actually work. So now you can set up your WordPress site.
Yeah. Now, some of the, if you go back to the other screen, what we had hoped to show you, but there were some other challenges today, is we've actually, in a number of cases, just used Epinio to deploy AI models with API wrapper, as well as front ends for that. And so if you load up the front end, will the front end load up for, it just, you can't hit the API right now.
Yeah.
But we were trying to show that use case of, well, hey, we need a chat app. Like your boss is going to come and say, hey, we need some AI. But what they always forget is that you still have to develop an interface to let people interact with that. And so in the case of Epinio, we want to show the AI use cases, and we're working with the SUSE AI team to try to surface some of that and try to integrate through the service catalog, right? If we're in there and we have SUSE AI, we should automatically add some of the service catalog options to provide developers with access to some of those APIs and those models, right? So once we provide them access, this is an easy way for a developer to log into an instance, get close access to maybe production or at least stage data inside of that environment, build their chat app or anything else, let them test it, run it. But we could have that, a simple chat app up as long as the SUSE AI is available in a matter of hours instead of trying to figure out what the rest of that stack needs to look like.
Cool.
Yeah. So we're going to take you through, for sake of time, take you through some of the current state that we're aware of and what's coming. It's a big philosophical thing for me to make sure that people understand the roadmaps of products so that they can align themselves with it, because nobody wants to just reinvent the wheel just for somebody else to come and steal your idea, right? So if we can align, are we doing two? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm like upstaging you. On the current status is that the Epinio UI, and we talked about how it's kind of melded with Rancher, it's on Rancher version 2.7 or 2.8, so it's pretty dated. What we have to do is we need to strip out Epinio and turn it into more of a formal extension. The extension does work today. You just have to use Rancher 2.7 or 2.8. Maybe some of you are way delayed and on long-term support or something, so it would work out of the box today. But we're trying to get things just jump-started and back up to 2.10 and 2.11. 2.10 and 2.11 are on a new major version of the UI framework, which is Vue. So there's a migration from Vue 2 to Vue 3. So there's just a lot of work to do. So we're kind of going to strip it down and build some things up from scratch. But the primary thing from an operator standpoint is we need an updated catalog. We need updated build packs. We need all these components that we're going to use. Now, so those are coming as well, but we know that we're not on the latest version of those. The Rancher desktop extension was broken for a minute there. It was trying to install the wrong Helm chart version. We have fixed that, and it's going through republication. But you can, if you haven't used Rancher desktop yet, you can use rdctl extension install, and it's really easy to add those. It's compatible with the Docker extensions. So that's coming, and also the Helm chart is fixed and available now as well. Hit the button. But what's coming next? Population of the services catalog. We know there aren't enough options there. It's a good start, but we need more. We're also adding service examples for non-Kubernetes resources. So fans of Crossplane and some of those other tools, or even Cluster API, you wouldn't Helm install a cluster, would you? Yeah, you would. You haven't tried it yet. It's really nice. But we're going to add some services related to that as well. We want to spin up ephemeral developer environments pre-linked to the Epinio instance. That's kind of the stretch goal. But then also we want to bring embedded extensions functionality. So SUSE observability and SUSE security are two great examples of products that have extensions and can augment your experience with Rancher. Why can't we bring those things into Epinio as well and provide the developers with direct access to that and not require them to just live in Rancher? But we do, as developers, love Rancher. So we're hoping we get some functionality in the extension framework that lets us hide some things and develop a more developer-centric functionality. But the Rancher or the Epinio extension has some nice features like one-click install into clusters that are deployed on the Rancher management or managed by the Rancher management server. Yeah, I need to. So I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots there. All right. So we mentioned we're focused on kind of improving the operator experience. So today, this is what Epinio looks like on the front. There have been a number of updates, especially to the tables in the Rancher UI framework, so getting those up to date. So one of the things that we're hoping to do as well is we'd like to introduce a more simplified card view for the developers at first, but also we see an opportunity for non-developer users to even maybe access Epinio or an Epinio dashboard to launch the applications that have been created for them, like a little Okta-style app launcher. And we think that's a big missing piece in the market today. So we'd like to see some of that. So happy to get some of your feedback on what you'd like to see on the front side for these cards. Also, we'd like to provide some extra control and some things around the workspaces. So today the default namespace is called workspace, but that hints at it'd be really nice to give people a different concept of what a namespace is, or the developers a different concept. And that's what projects were for, so maybe we can meld some of that together. But again, it's about meeting the developers and the right people at their language. That's the platform engineering side. And then today, this is what the UI looks like when you're looking at an application and the in-depth details. So some typical information there, some basic metrics, deployment details. That is all there today, but we'd like to spruce it up a little bit, clean it up. So we're trying to simplify things like being able to visualize what the latest commit or what commit we're on for a particular build. Give a little bit more of a mature metrics view, and some other things there. We'd also like to bring in some additional material in the context of the source code so that we can see what the heck was going on around this version. So a little bit of Git history, but within the running application and not just at that build time. Let's see. And then for catalog, you'll see some improvements early on in the catalog because it's low-hanging fruit. But just improving the look and feel. Today, it just feels a little light, not clickable. We want to make some more deliberate actions. We also want to be able to view some logs and some previous attempts to instantiate from those services. So those are some nice little refresh options. Let's see. And then let's go back to So we talked about what's coming next, the embedded extensions functionality. Cool. UI updates, we're good. Awesome. So how to contribute. The Epinio project is a GitHub organization. It is not owned by a company. That's a question we've been getting, is like, who owns Epinio now? It's not really owned by anybody. There are thoughts about trying to donate and go to Sandbox with the CNCF. We'll see. There's a lot of projects in the CNCF now, and so we need to make sure it's really a great fit for that as well. It's also a lot of work. But absolutely join the Rancher community Slack. We have an Epinio channel in there as well. You'll also see us in the extensions channel because we're developing this as an extension, right? But those are the best places to go. And then if you go to the Epinio repository, you can build from source, see everything that's happening, and absolutely contribute there. I will warn you, there is a huge backlog of roadmap items that just got shelved at some point. So we're trying to go back through and rebuild what that roadmap looks like, but it's been a couple of years. And also we have different opinions in some cases than the previous team, so we're gonna go through and do it in our vision. But again, I think that operator focus is the most important thing in the short term. Cool. So that's it. So Epinio is alive and well. It takes you just a few minutes to install it and ship your apps. I'd say just go give it a try. You will break some things, but tell us and we'll fix it. And we're dedicated to it, but thanks for coming to hang out and ask us about Epinio. But do you guys have any questions? So it actually will generate the certificates using Cert Manager. Yeah, it's not, in his case, it's generating a self-signed cert because he doesn't have the ingress to do the DNS 01 or HTTP 01 validation. But those apps, when they ship, they're going to use your configuration at the cluster level for Cert Manager and your ingress. So external DNS, everything else, however you need that to configure. Sorry to hear. If you're using the private CA, the question is what if you're using a private CA instead of the self-signed cert? It would be the same workflow. You just have to configure Cert Manager to use the root CA or the private root CA and generate those certificates. So it's not dependent on your configuration in Epinio. It's the responsibility of the operator to configure just how the cluster does its ingress. Yeah, when an Epinio app runs, it's creating a service and ingress and a deployment, right? It's just a Kubernetes application at that point.
Do you know if it's annotating the ingress or is it creating an actual cert request manifest?
So it's annotating its ingress has annotations, and if you want it to use a specific, maybe Cert Manager, a specific load balancer, a specific, and anything else you might need to update the annotations. And I was doing that earlier because on my local stack, I'm trying to use Cloudflare or Grok as options to get that ingress. Cloudflare, if you use Cloudflare tunnels, it's actually really, really nice once you figure out how to get the tokens going. But to your ingress, you add the tunnel ID, you add the DNS name, so like the origin, and then there's another annotation you add. The way that you would add that to the resources in Epinio is you could add that to the app chart. So you can create a custom app chart that has those defined. Now, a nice thing for the operator is that since it supports that templating, you don't need to necessarily know that URL ahead of time. You can just inherit the base URL of the Epinio instance and have everything be subdomained on that, or at least in the same location. So it is really easy to configure that in those complex cases. Let's see. Any other questions? Any ideas? Any wish lists? Yeah, go for it.
Have you ever used Atlantis with Terraform?
I haven't.
So one of the things I loved about Atlantis is instead of forcing developers to go out to yet another console that they're messing with, it would interact directly with pull requests by adding comments and giving them commands within PRs and stuff.
Oh, cool.
I'd love if a tool like that would kind of
Yes.
recognize that truly the primary console for developers these days is their web-hosted source control. That's normally where their pipelines are running. That's where they're thinking about stuff. And seeing integration like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. You're touching on something that's near and dear to us as well. When I mentioned using the services for developer environments, right? that may sound a little silly to some people at first, but if I can associate a dev environment to work on an application with that application, and in this case with the bindings and everything else, if we can inherit some of the bindings and the authentication for Epinio and some other items there, then we get that dev environment close. But where does the source code need to go? And you'll see out at you were talking to Troy earlier, but out at the booth, we can use Git, right, as a self-hosted instance of GitHub. And Epinio supports the Git jobs patterns as well. And you can integrate with Fleet that way as well. But you can create Epinio instances by creating those Git jobs, so the Epinio applications are generated from source code automatically, which is really cool. It's not something that's talked about a lot, but it is absolutely documented in the current docs. But maybe an interface and making that more visible would be a good thing. I think that reality of being able to do that, like from source development like that, is finally attainable. It was a little pipe dream a few years ago. But yeah, I would love to see that also. I do that. We were talking earlier about the different types of developers. One of my goals at our company is I am sick and tired of having a developer have to update the website. And so how do we make it so that somebody in marketing or a salesperson or whoever else can go in and just, edit in GitHub? And the leap to GitHub is maybe a little much, but just let them go change a markdown file and have everything else go out. And so we can definitely do that workflow here. We don't use Epinio for that today, but if we set up that Git job, then it'll have that Fleet-like functionality and pull that in. It uses the same core components. You had one more? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens to the GitOps, or you can push a new version of the application. We've seen a variety of different workflows that people use for that. We in some cases also have used it ourselves, but you can use like Argo workflows or Jenkins to do a Epinio push and update and promote applications that way. You can also put the application manifest in source and work from that as well and populate it with environmental variables. So really there's a lot of ways that you can automate. But since it's just Kubernetes behind the scenes, you can automate a lot of that the normal way you'd be automating Kubernetes, right? So a lot of cool things there. I'm with you. There's so much potential there to make that easier. But at the end of the day, it'll still be compatible with all your observability tools, your security tools, anything that's Kubernetes specific. But that's not a replacement. We don't want to just force the developers to go already know what environment to use. And something philosophically we talk about with Rancher extensions is kind of that like 80-20 rule, taking 20% of a functionality from an external system and presenting that information in the environment with the developer. And then when they need the other 80%, take them to it. Like show them where to go and take them directly to where they need to go. That's there's a principle for that, and it starts with the P word. Pareto? Yeah. And so they're talking about that in platform engineering a lot. Here in Epinio, right, we don't want to be an end-all be-all platform, but we want to create those hooks, and that's what that embedded extensions functionality needs to be for. We want to push the SUSE partner catalog and pull those catalog items as much as we can into Epinio for launchable instances. But we'd also like to bring in those the extensions and that other functionality and say, hey, you guys added this to the deployment screen, the security and compliance view. Why can't we pick that up in Epinio and say, well, this is also a deployment. Let's pull in that compliance view and just kind of have it work out of the box. Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate it. We're past time. I'm sorry for the audio stuff.